Walking up this one hill was my nemesis. I had difficulty breathing. I had pain in my leg.
I lost my sense of taste and my sense of smell.
Brain fog, fatigue, headaches.
Because long COVID can have up to 50 symptoms associated with it, there is a lot of confusion about what is long COVID.
Not every veteran will see all of the providers, but many of the providers collaborate together in order to create a personalized health plan with the veteran and for the veteran.
I am extremely thankful to the VA to help create a roadmap for me.
If I use the starting point of once I release from the hospital, I feel tremendously better.
I have about a 70% improvement. I'm still feeling some symptoms, but I'm a lot better than when I was initially diagnosed.
And that's the good news. It does get better.
Hello and welcome again to Oscar Mike Radio. My name is Travis. I'm your host. Oscar Mike Radio is part of the Hubazoo Network. You can find out more on hubazoo.com. I want to thank my supporters, Joyce Asack of Asack Real Estate, Army National Guard veteran Mark Holmes of Reapers Detailing and Power Washing, and my supporters, all veteran-owned businesses, Cason Shaving Company, Black Cat Designs, and Savage American Woodwork. So we're live today, like we're not on Zoom, we're not, millions of miles apart. I'm like close. I'm in Mendon, Massachusetts today at the Garrison Speed Shop with Ben Hendricks and Luke of the Garrison Speed Shop. Gentlemen, welcome to Oscar Mike Radio.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Yeah, thanks for having us, Travis.
So I was scrolling through Facebook and I saw this ape with a war helmet on, riding a motorcycle, and I was like, I'm in. And automatically, what's going on? Let's check this out. And I started looking at your website and your Facebook page, and what you all do is pretty amazing. It kind of brought me back to my time in Yuma, where if you had a POV, as we said in the Marine Corps, you could go work on it. And you've got this amazing facility here. Tell me a little bit, I'm putting the cart before the horse, but that's okay, about this amazing place called the Garrison Speed Shop.
Yeah, absolutely. So, it sounds cliche, but this whole idea was pretty much on a napkin 2 years ago. Luke and I, I said, Luke, I think I want to do something like this, and he goes, well, tell me a little bit more about it. And we probably spent 3 hours in a parking lot after a meeting one day.
In the rain.
Soaked, talking about this concept. And the next day he calls me up and he goes, I'm in. How do I do this? And since then we've been 100% in, just acquiring assets for the shop and building it out to make it as as user friendly and as capable as possible, and we're pretty proud of it.
So if you own a motorcycle, you can bring your motorcycle to this shop and have a place and tools to work on it.
Yeah, so that's one aspect of it. Really what we want to be is a community hub. We want to have as many resources as possible for veterans and first responders in here. In the motorcycles and the fabrication, that's really just a medium, to keep everybody's attention. That's something that Luke and I love doing. The veterans and first responders that we hang out with love doing it. So we said, this is a really good medium to base this foundation off of. But we're also, a community resource, so we can help in a lot of different other aspects as well. So,
all right. So before we get more into motorcycles, which everybody knows I love, why don't you both give us a little Cliff Notes version or summary of your military experience? Because I think I got a first here on Oscar Mike Radio today. We'll start with you first, Luke.
All right. So I was 4 years active duty Army. I was 13th COSCOM, 62nd Engineers. We're in a heavy equipment engineer unit. Did 2 deployments to Iraq, and then on my 8th year of when the military can pull you back in, I went back into the reserves. just to see if it was something I wanted to do till retirement. I ended up finishing that year off, and been living in the civvy world ever since.
All right. How was getting out of the military, coming back into civilian life fully?
Yeah, so as most veterans know, it was tough. The transition was tough. You know, coming home and trying to assimilate back into civilian life, but also family life. It was hard. It was one of them things, you know, when you first come home, it's why is this person acting this way to me? You know, as opposed to why am I acting this way to others? You know, so it took a lot of years to sit back, self-reflect, and figure out how to help myself. One of those ways was through motorcycles, and quite frankly, anything with an engine or something I could build out of wood or metal or leather. You know, I just needed that outlet to be able to, you know, find that peace of mind. And, you know, with that and absolutely through motorcycles and brothers that I've met doing so, it allowed me to have that self-reflection and work on myself and be better for, you know, myself and family.
Nice. Ben, sir, what about you?
So, as you said earlier, I guess I'm the first on your show. So, so I was in the Coast Guard. I joined in '07. I did 6 years active and 2 reserve. I joined the Coast Guard for really one reason, to get on a particular counterterrorism team called Maritime Security and Response Team. As a non-rate, or you know, before I became a petty officer, 3rd class, I spent about a year in New York City doing maritime law enforcement and search and rescue. So I cut my teeth doing that, and just kept, you know, doing assessments and, you know, trying to get my name on the list to try out for MSRT down in Virginia. And I finally got it. Went down to A school down in Charleston, down in FLETC, and then I was on the team for the remainder of my active duty. And
so how do you go from that high speed, you know, job in the military to this right here? What was your transition like? Because you're at a high operational tempo, and then all of a sudden the brakes get thrown on.
Yeah, you know, when I first got home, you know, I think I told my wife, you know, I was trying to make a comparison, and it really felt like, you know, I was going 100 miles an hour to you know, a dead stop. And you know, that transition was really difficult for me. And to be honest, motorcycles really kind of buffered that transition a lot. You know, I was dealing with some injuries at the time. I couldn't really use, you know, I couldn't transition my skills, what I learned on the team, to anything else, just because of the injuries. So a lot of self-reflection. You know, I had to really dig deep and get motivated. And, you know, I said, you know, what's my next chapter? And so I ended up going to grad school at Assumption to get a degree in rehab counseling.
Oh, wow.
And I had you know, I had a really good support system when I was, you know, rehabbing with my injuries. And I thought to myself, you know, there's a lot of guys out there that don't have this support system. So just kind of coming from that aspect during my transition, went to school, started working for the VA, and the whole time I'm thinking about this, you know, the Garrison Speed Shop, and how can we make this a reality. And finally, I got to a point where I think, you know, I said, I think I'm ready to take the next step. And Luke and I chatted, and you know, we were off to the races.
So that leads me to the next question. How did you and Luke meet?
So funny story, Luke and I both ride for the Nom Knights Motorcycle Club, and it's a veteran and first responder club, 501c3. We do a lot of charity in the community. And so we already kind of had that background of, you know, after service, we want to keep giving to the community. And yeah, we hit it off kind of immediately. And that's how this whole thing started.
All right, so let's talk about motorcycles for a second, because my first motorcycle was a 1982 Yamaha Seika 650, XJ 650.
Yep.
Great motorcycle, wish I still had it. But let me hear what you all think when you turn on your motorcycle, you hear it power up. What happens to you all when you hit the starter button and your machine comes to life, what's going through your mind and body when that happens?
Well, for me, it's it's just a sense of freedom. It's a time for me where even if I'm just commuting 15 minutes from my house to the shop, it's my time where I just get to clear my head of any issues that I'm having, and it's just such an incredible sense of freedom, and it really kind of resets me for the day, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that's kind of the same for you or not, but
Yeah, I mean, I would say a lot of that's the same. It's that freedom. It's you fire it up. You hear the the exhaust going. It's just, I grew up around racetracks anyway, so it's almost like hearing an engine go, especially whether it's a motorcycle, a nice set of pipes, or open header race car. That's like ASMR for me. So I hear that, and I'm already down a peg. But then once I'm out on the road, it's just like whatever weight I'm carrying at that moment, it goes away. And I mean, it's almost like instantaneous. You take that one deep breath and you just feel relaxed. And it's like, sometimes it's the only time during that day you might smile, depending on what's going on, whatever kind of load you're carrying. So it's that freedom. It's that time to self-reflect. It's that time to just kind of process things or not, and just kind of get away from it all.
yeah.
I don't know, for me, I totally agree. When I put my motorcycle in first gear and let the clutch out, everything goes away.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And I tell people, I'm not much of a churchgoer anymore, but I think God's talked to me on my bike a lot of times, because it can be a bad work week, a bad personal life, bad whatever, and I could be getting rained on. That's one reason I didn't ride up here.
Yeah.
And everything's fine. Everything's fine. So, and then also, it's a really unique bond, because not everybody in our country rides.
Yep.
Yeah.
And you might ride a different bike than I do, and vice versa, but we all understand what it took to acquire that motorcycle and do it. So I'm looking out here and I see one Harley in front of me and one to my left. Are those your bikes?
They are. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. So the Electric Glide's mine, and the Softail's Luke's. And to be honest, if I had to pick between the two, I think I like Luke's more. That's a bad bike.
What is it about the Harley that you like so much?
I mean, it's just, I don't know, it's one of those things. I mean, I guess, especially being a veteran, being someone who's patriotic, I mean, it's just that the brand, it's got that Americana feel, So I mean, for me, it's just that, I don't know, it's just that feel. You get on it, and you're proud to ride it. You're proud of the things that you've done to it, to make it your own. And I don't know, I got to tell you, I've had other motorcycles besides Harleys, but I've never met more people or come into conversations I didn't expect to have on something other than a Harley. It just opens up so many conversations. You park your bike and someone's like, "Oh, hey, what did you do to it? Like, what do you got here? This sounds great. This looks great." And they want to hear that story. It's a story for you. It's a story of what you're just talking about. It's all that self-reflection time. It's that alone time, and that becomes part of that conversation. So it opens up so many doors.
I don't own a Harley. I have a Yamaha Stratoliner, big V twin.
Great bike.
Well, I love it. I love it. It's been nothing but a great bike for me, but I definitely get it. I've had, fellow veterans, right? They're looking for their community. They get a Harley. They start off with a Sportster a lot of times, which I'm like, get a Dyna, don't get a Sportster. But anyway, they get an entry-level ride, and they start riding, and they become part of that community. And I'm sure you all have seen that.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
And kind of what I said earlier, with the motorcycles being, a medium, we really wanted to emphasize on that community. And, it's something that I've realized since I've been out and, navigating my transition into, being a civilian again is, it's a lot harder when you're doing things alone,
It is.
It is. And so, we really wanted the space to be, the best days in the shop are when, all cylinders are firing and we've got people on lifts and guys are talking about, some of the struggles they're having, or some of the fun times they had, or the unique experiences, and that environment, they may not be able to do that anywhere else. You know, you can't really just meet somebody in a supermarket and have that conversation, but when you're wrenching on your bike and there's a fellow service member or first responder in the bay next to you, and you know, conversations just kind of spark up organically, and for me, like, that's why we're doing this.
So this reminded me, I served in the Marine Corps. I was stationed in Yuma, MCS Yuma, and they had, the MWR had like a place where you could work on your POV, your car.
Yeah, it was like a sprockets, right?
Right. And you went down to the place and you checked out tools, and you know, they had someone there, usually a staff NCO, of course, running it. And you know, you go by there on a Friday night, and you know, it's supposed to close at 9. There'd be guys there, and women too, till 11 o'clock, wrenching on their vehicles, and everybody knew everybody. Your rank was rank, but it wasn't really enforced, and it was a really cool concept, because instead of drinking in the barracks on a Friday night, they were out working on their cars. I walk into here for your open house. I rode out with the Veterans Brotherhood VMC, and I am like, hallelujah, because you had the lifts, you have the tools, and a lot of guys don't want to get bikes because they, you know, you take it to a bike shop, you're paying $100 an hour to have that thing worked on, whether it's an oil change or transmission. And I'm like, you've got everything here to learn how to work on your ride. So that leads me to my next question is, what's it like taking somebody who's trying to, you know, learn how to work on their bike and guiding them through that process?
I got to tell you, you know, for me, I think it's not just something where you get to teach them and they come away with a valuable skill, you know, but it's also part of our healing process. You know, I get a lot of satisfaction being able to, you know, show somebody who really has the desire to learn something, and take them from either not knowing how to do something very well or haven't done it all that much or at all, and bring them to the place where they now feel comfortable doing so. And that's part of what we have here at our programs, between learning how to do general maintenance, and like whether it's an oil change clinic or 3-hole fluid change clinic, or you know, learning how to, we were just talking about it yesterday, but like just teaching people like how to use a voltage meter, you know, and different applications, or coming in here and learn how to, the basics of fundamentals of metal fabrication, TIG welding, MIG welding, and just give them the ability to create something from nothing. And in some aspects over here, it's absolutely, in the metal fab shop, creating something from nothing. And in other aspects, you know, we're talking about learning how to do these skills on their own. They're coming sometimes from ground zero. And when they leave, you know, you're not going to be at 10 when you leave here with an intro clinic, but you're going to have a good grasp for it, and you may now feel comfortable doing projects on your own, or at home, or coming in here and facilitating your own project as opposed to being taught how to do so.
That's cool. That's cool. Just to go back a little bit, one of the things that instantly, you know, connected with me was this big hulking, because I kind of look like one, this big hulking ape gorilla in your logo, and the whole idea of Garrison. Is Garrison kind of like in the military, where we're in Garrison, we're not on combat, we're not in a forward operating base, we're in Garrison learning how to refine our skills? And then, you know, where does the ape come in? Because that hooked me.
Yeah, so early on, you know, when we first started conceptualizing this, or taking that idea that Ben came to me with, and trying to figure out like, what's the face of it, what's it going to look like, and you know, I like to get creative. Creative process is my wheelhouse, you know, and I really like to do that. And Ben and I both found this image that we liked, and it happened to be of a gorilla. And I took that and I made our own. And the reason why the gorilla is our logo, and why it looks, you know, raw, and the gorilla's kind of angry, it almost looks like he's going through something himself, you know, like just lashing out, is because guerrilla warfare is unconventional warfare. And we look at what we do here as an unconventional means of therapy for these men and women who have given to their country, given to their communities. And what we wanted to do, we really wanted to capture how raw that process is, and just scream at the world, let it out, and that's where we came to terms with that logo.
That makes sense. And two, when you rev that throttle and you hear your bike respond, you're letting it out.
You're letting
Absolutely.
it out. Yeah.
Every
Absolutely.
Awesome. So let's talk about the programs, because you don't just have a place for a person to work on their motorcycles, but you do have the metal fabrication aspect of it. That was really interesting on your website, and folks, I'll have the website information in the Oscar Mike Radio show post, where maybe bikes aren't your thing, but if you have an interest in welding, you can do that too. And the reason I bring that up is I was talking to a gentleman out in California, Army veteran Curtis Rutledge, with Project Shift 6, and he really advocates people in this space learning how to weld. So how did welding become part of this program?
Well, I think that, motorcycle repair and welding, in my opinion, they go hand in hand, especially if we're building something from nothing, if, some custom parts, like there's gonna be an aspect of welding there. But really, what I try to preach is, if a guy or girl gets out of the military and they say, hey, what's my next step? Do I do 4 years of college and, get a business degree? Now what? And we want to kind of show everybody that there's some amazing paying jobs out there that do not require a 4-year education. I think that education in the academic world is necessary for a lot of people, but there's a lot of people that it just goes against the grain. And, with welding and a lot of the trades, I don't think that they get the credit that they deserve. So, we put this aspect in, one, to be a little bit more functional in the space, but two, to say, hey, listen, like if this is something that really piques your interest and you get a lot of enjoyment out of it, we can help, these guys and girls get into a trade school where they can get certified and really start making really good money right out of graduation.
And take advantage of their GI Bill.
Take advantage of their GI Bill, or whatever educational services that they have. We just want to let them know that these type of employment opportunities are, people are actively seeking qualified welders in the area. So.
Awesome. So let's go back to motorcycles for a minute. I'm big on motorcycle safety, and I was curious if you guys had opinions about what makes for a safe ride or riding experience, because, there's a lot of people getting into it, a lot of people buying their first bike. There's questions about helmets, gloves, what should be on your bike in terms of lighting. Do you all have any best practices that you want to see a rider do with their bike regardless of what they're riding?
Yeah, so I mean, I think it's really important. Everybody loves going up to New Hampshire, throwing off their helmet and rolling down the road. But at the end of the day, we've lost some really good people, Ben and I, who maybe weren't wearing their helmet, and unfortunately, things like that can be prevented. Me personally, if I'm jumping on a bike, I got pants on always. Always have a leather vest on. Always wearing gloves, and my lighting's all LED. I like to be seen. Where you're riding in a car or a truck, sometimes you might be driving more offensive, but on a bike, it's always got to be defensive. You're looking down the road, you're looking for intersections, you're looking for people who are at that light, and I always look for the front wheels, seeing if they're turning, if they're rolling at all. And sometimes it may be something where I'll just kind of give the handlebar a little wiggle and get that light moving, so it might grab their attention if they don't see me otherwise. But you got to be front sight focused, looking down the road, looking like 2 or 3 moves ahead always.
Yeah.
It's a game of chess, and we enjoy it, but you never know.
Yeah,
Right.
it's definitely a dangerous game, and helmets and gloves for me are mandatory. And I think that's evolved through the years. I've been riding since I was maybe 16 or 17 years old. My first motorcycle, and my mother tells a story all the time. I came home in March. I sold March in New England. So, you know, still snow on the ground. I sold a perfectly good running car for a 98 FCR 600. As it was snowing, it was getting delivered to my driveway. And my mother came home from grocery shopping, and the first thing she picked up out of the grocery shopping bag was a box of pudding, and it went right to the back of my head. And
I was going to say, how did your mom react?
She was not happy. She was not happy, but she knew, you know, my mom's been always really supportive of my decisions, even in the military. I mean, I come from a military family, and, you know, I know that my brother and I both went in at the same time. We went to boot camp together, and I know that was really tough for her, but she's always been really supportive of my decisions. And, you know, since that first bike, I've been hooked. But the natural progression of like safety gear and being cognizant on the road is really matured throughout the years, you know. So now it's, I don't assume that anybody sees me. My head's always on a swivel. Helmets, gloves. An old timer one time told me that the only place the doctors can't graft skin is on your palms. So I don't know if that's true or not, but I wear gloves.
Find out.
Yeah, if somebody could find out, that'd be great. But you know, those are the basics that that I you know, kind of preach to everybody. And with everybody texting these days on the road, you know, I just try to do my small part to mitigate the risk. I know it's still there. But yeah, if I kind of practice those things, I feel a little bit safer.
Man, that's something else. I mean, you know, I go riding and I'm, you know, on 24, or I'm on 495 or, you know, the Mass Pike, and I'm going past a car and I look over and, you know, they're got their phone up doing a full conversation, and I am like, it does something to you. One thing that I kind of like doing is doing like a pre-flight checklist on my bike. You know, making sure there's nothing in the tires, the signals all work, and stuff like that. No oil leaks, no leaks in general. You know, what can a person do to make sure their bike is in good order before they put the kickstand up?
So it's funny you say the pre-flight checklist. My boys, they're probably sick of hearing me say it, but I'm always like, did you do your PMIs? Did you do your PMCs? And that is for everything, for their school bags, to their baseball gear, to overnights. Like, you know, they need to have a checklist and they need to know what's going on. And for me, I do the same thing, you know, tire pressure, I always check the oil, make sure that there's really nothing loose, just, you know, walk around, do a quick visualization on it, make sure my bags are tight. The last thing I want to do is if Luke's riding behind me and one of my bags falls off, that could turn into a bad day quick. So it's small things like that. And, you know, if you get into that mindset where every time you get on the bike, you're going to do this, I also, you know, I think that that's going to mitigate some issues down the road.
Nice, nice. I came to your open house and I saw literally like 400 people in this space, and it was successful. And then like a month later, I saw that you were opening this up not just to veterans, but the community in general. What was the decision to do that? Because that marked a shift in your overall mission focus. Well, you're still doing what you're doing, but you're serving more people. What marked that?
Well, you know, Luke and I had talked about this for weeks before we made that post.
Yeah.
And, you know, I was hell-bent on, I want to keep this, I do not want to deviate from this mission of vets and first responders. But on the same side of that, we'd have people that were, you know, supporters that didn't serve, but they were very patriotic and they really liked the cause and what we were doing and they wanted to help. And that's one thing that I love to hear is how can I help, you know?
Right.
So, you know, men and women would come in, they say, hey, listen, I'm not a vet, I'm not a first responder, my dad serves, you know, but I really want to help, how can I do this? And, you know, we thought to ourselves, there's a lot of times where not all the bays are filled up. And this town of Mendon, and not just our sponsors, but the volunteers and, you know, our frequent flyers that just, they see the garage door open, they come in for a cup of coffee or something like that and just talk. You know, we said, you know, it does take a community to help with this problem. You know, obviously veterans and first responders, if we grind and we get our heads together, we can definitely fix it, but it makes things a lot easier when the whole community is involved in this, right? So we thought to ourselves, well, why don't we have, you know, supporter days where one, they can meet some of the veterans in their community. Two, they can work on their bikes and share their, you know, their passion for bikes, and it's a really great networking opportunity as well for everybody. You know, something else that we really try to encourage is, you know, we have a job board, and, you know, if a veteran or a first responder comes in, they say, hey, listen, I'm looking for some extra work, or I'm looking to change my career path. We say, hey, listen, well, you know, so-and-so is hiring down the street, or this opportunity may be coming up. How can we help you, you know, connect the dots? And a lot of these supporters that come in are, you know, small business owners, and it just made sense that, you know, full circle, we could get everybody on board to, you know, to help this population.
Well, I think that's key because we need civilians to help us out.
100%.
Absolutely. And quite frankly, you know, when we have our supporters coming in, as Ben touched on, you know, I would say at least 90% of them, probably more, that's a conservative number, have veteran ties, you know, so they either know somebody, or, you know, that they're friends with, or their family. And if you have these men and women who are supportive of our mission coming in, and by utilizing our programs and our facility, they're directly supporting our mission by helping us roll funding back into improving on our programs, improving on our equipment, and being able to offer more, not just within the shop, but we also have a strong desire to facilitate group trips where we can take a group of 10 veterans and first responders, you know, and bring them on, like a, you know, when it's off season for motorcycles, maybe we get up north, rent a cabin, get some UTVs, and just get out there, have a blast. We're on 4 wheels, but we're still flying around, having fun, and we get around a campfire at the end of the night, and just like it happens organically here in the shop, where you got someone at the Station 1 and someone at Station 2, and they're like, hey, where'd you serve? Oh, I was in the Army. I was at Fort Hood. Oh, me too. What years? You know, that's when you know, the bonding happens, and we just want to encourage that in any way possible, and that's not always going to happen in the shop. So coming in and utilizing our stations to do their own work and projects, or being a part of one of our clinics, that supports those side projects that we're looking to do as well.
This has not happened by accident. You guys just didn't snap your fingers and all of a sudden this was all here.
No.
So a lot of yourselves went into this.
All of them, all of ourselves.
Yeah.
Well, okay, all of yourselves. I mean,
Yeah.
I mean, it did not happen, you know, in a vacuum, right?
Right.
And you had to get support, and you had to, you know, share the vision. Walk me through what it's like when you get that person off the street, that veteran, who you can tell, you know, is just trying to connect with somebody. He has his bike or she has her ride, and they start going through the program. They start, you know, talking with each other. What's that do to you all when you start seeing your program, your dream, become reality?
I mean, kind of like I mentioned earlier, it's with the teaching aspect. It's very gratifying. It's humbling, and it's healing for us too. You know, I mean, it's our way that we can do something for our brothers and sisters. That it's very unique. This isn't an easy thing to accomplish. What happened here wasn't just Ben and I. I mean, the size of the team that's really come together and make this a possibility is insane, and it's happened organically.
And everything you see here has been donated in some
really?
way, shape, or form.
Everything in the shop.
We started this whole venture with $500 between us. And
Yeah.
a lot of knocking on doors, a lot of doors closed, but the doors that, you know, that opened, the people who opened them they welcomed us with open arms, and they said, you know, how can we help? And it's just been, you know, I almost sometimes get emotional about it, because I'm like, how can people be so nice, you know? And it's been phenomenal. But, you know, the one thing I do preface with every new person that comes in here is no egos at all. I think egos kills a positive transition, right? So you come in here and, you know, you've just got a chip on your shoulder, that affects the morale of the entire shop. And Luke and I, you know, we come in every day and we have nothing to prove. We just want to give our knowledge and let people utilize this space. And being a nonprofit, this isn't even our space, this is the community space. And, you know, we really want everybody to feel welcome here. My initial speech to everybody is, hey, listen, man, there's no egos on my end and Luke's end, and we're just here to, you know, for the camaraderie, for the learning, for the support and the resources. And I tell you, I haven't had one person say, no, I'm gonna keep that ego, you know.
Well, you gotta be coachable. You gotta be kind of humble to do this, because the bike needs you to, you know, work on it and do what it's got to do.
Yeah.
You know.
And another aspect of you know, being able to help our veterans and first responders, it's not even just having someone come in the door who's looking for that outlet and to be able to learn something while doing so. It's also something, we have an amazing team of volunteers, and as I said, it's very self-fulfilling, it's very gratifying and healing for us to be able to do what we do. But it's not necessarily always someone coming in looking for help. It's people coming in, you know, who's a vet or first responder, because we all know we're horrible at self-care.
Yep.
We're stubborn, you know, we're just, you know, to put it nicely, we just care for everything but ourselves typically. So to have a place where a vet or first responder can come in and give back, you know, helping another brother or sister, that's
therapeutic
it.
as well.
It doesn't matter how we facilitate it in here. There's so many different ways that people can give back and also receive that, you know, that needed outlet.
I really like that aspect. You're having people take action to, you know, further their transition and give back to the community, because somebody learned something here, they can take it to their community or their family and benefit them. What is next for you all? You have the location, you have the area where you can, you know, do these services and programs. What do you all see as the next step for Garrison Speed Shop?
Phase 2?
Yeah, so we have a phase 2, and then I have a phase 3 that.
All right, if you can share it.
Yeah, absolutely. So phase 2, we have about 2,500 square feet on the other side of this building, and right now it's just storage. We've got some construction going on right now, but what we really want to do is we're really big on health and well-being, right? Like, wrenching on a motorcycle may not be, you know, a workout, right? But it's definitely positively affecting your well-being. So the space on the other side, what we're trying to do next after everything's finished is, you know, we want to put, you know, some free weights in there. We want to put a jiu-jitsu mat in there. We have a pool table already, and really make it a rec area. So if somebody comes in, it's the middle of the winter. As you know, sometimes the winter in New England, it gets cold and dark, and you just like, what am I going to do with myself? You know, stop by the shop and get a lift in. And that right there is physiologically is going to, you know, really benefit you and put you in the right frame of mind to, you know, finish the day or start the day. So that's kind of phase 2 on that end.
Also on that end, on the rec side, is being able to facilitate, you know, like social events.
Yeah.
Some would be for just vets and first responders. Other would be open to the community, like you saw with our open house event.
Yeah.
But things like, you know, like, hey, let's just get a little ping pong tournament going.
Cornhole.
Oh, yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Let's get together. Just kind of, you know, have a good time. Get to know, you know, the other local vets and first responders in the area. By doing so, they're going to gain a stronger support system and a friend that they may not have had. You know, I mean, hell, Ben and I have been in the same area, 30 minutes away from each other since he got out and I got out. I got out earlier, but I mean, you know, I mean, we had no idea each other was there until we met, you know, through our veteran law enforcement.
Now
club.
I see you more than I see my family.
Yeah. My work wife.
That's funny.
And then, you know, phase 3, I think Luke's going to cringe on this, but what I really want to do is there's a lot of really great motorcycle tracks in the area, whether Thompson or New Hampshire, and I would like to eventually sponsor a veteran or first responder that is in the motorcycle race scene and say, hey, listen, like, you know, we can get you parts at cost essentially. You can utilize the space to work on your bike and just support them as much as possible, because that's a whole nother passion that, you know, they're pursuing, and I want to be able to help them out as much as possible and facilitate, you know, their goals and aspirations of racing. So and I love racing, so
All right.
if I can hang out on a track and support, you know, one of my brothers or sisters that's you know, chasing after their goal, then I'm all about it.
That's awesome. So I'm hearing all this, and you know, the ape drew me in, and you know, the motorcycles drew me in, and I really want to connect with you all. I have to think, you know, people watching this and listening to this have the same question I have: is how can we help you with the programs and services you're offering to our veterans and community?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So we're essentially a relatively new nonprofit, if you know, less than a year, you know, by all intents and purposes. So, you know, the biggest roadblock that we're getting into is like grants and state and federal grants, right? So we need to be able to quantify our numbers to show that, you know, this is how many people we're helping and this is the positive impact we're making on the community. But as a first year nonprofit, it's really hard to quantify those numbers. So this year, you know, we really, you know, we're just kind of documenting numbers and saying, hey, listen, this is how we helped, and we're keeping it, you know, very redacted, like no names or anything like that. I just want numbers so when we do those grants, like, hey, this is what's going on. But you know, assets and capital is always top of our list. So, you know, more equipment, like drill, you know, like a drill press for the shop, more specialty tools for the toolboxes, and even just donations, because everything that we make or that is donated to the shop goes right back into overhead consumables, and yeah, so.
And they can find right on our website, there's buttons on our website that'll drive you to either our Square account to be able to make general donations. We also have what we just rolled out with on Friday. It's called $5 Fridays. So we understand that not everybody who has a desire to help has an abundance of excess cash flow, especially in the times we find ourselves in.
Sure.
But you know, it's a way that people can help out, because everything helps. Whether it's $5 on a $5 Friday, or whether it's a $5 specialty tool that we don't have yet, you know. So every little bit helps, and there's, you know, it's we're trying to make it as easy as possible for people to find those links to be able to do so.
And you know, that was kind of, that's how we've built this very, you know, methodically. You know, we get a $500 donation, and a lot of the times they'd be anonymous, like, hey, I saw what you're doing, here's $500, you know, I know it's not a lot, but it helps. And on my side, I'm like, that's a lot. I just bought a new toolbox for another station. Like, that really helps out a lot. And it's really weird if you see the natural progression. I wish we had pictures of it, but we'd start with, like, you know, 5 months ago, we'd start with one bay with a toolbox and a lift, and then we'd, you know, get a couple more dollars and we buy another one and then another one, and like that's how it all started.
It was kind of funny, because when we started, as you said, we had one toolbox, one rolling cart, and one lift.
In a photo shoot that night.
And nothing else was in the shop. And we're looking at it and we're like, how the hell are we going to fill this space? It's so huge. We're never going to fill this space. And as we said, everything you see in here was donated by different companies, individuals, all local community, because also, as you mentioned, with grants, first year nonprofit, it's kind of like being an 18-year-old trying to get a credit card.
Right.
Oh, well, you want a credit card, you don't have any credit, can't give it to you. Okay, thanks for coming. So
we had to think outside the box a little bit.
Everything that's in here, it was given to us, but it's progressively gotten more as we've made more connections, our network's grown. And again, I can't stress enough, it's happened organically. Ben and I are not salesmen or just a couple knuckle draggers, finding our way through it. And you know, there's about 20 hats hanging on the wall in there, and we have to wear all of them. And we never know going into the next day which one it's going to be, you know. But we've learned a lot in this process, and I think we've grown in this process. So, as I mentioned with the teaching, you know, it's healing for us, but you know, we're putting ourselves through school, and we're the student and the teacher, so it's kind of
yeah, no, it's
been an experience.
You know, and how we structured our board. I don't know if you had a chance to kind of see who's on our board, but these people are way more accomplished and way smarter than Luke and I.
Industry leaders.
Industry leaders, and you know, so when we were kind of compiling the team, Luke and I kind of looked at each other and we're like, you know, what are our weaknesses? It was more weaknesses than strengths. So we were like, how about this person? They know a lot about that. And how about this person? And you know, so when we approached them, most of them were acquaintances beforehand, and I got to tell you, they were ecstatic. They're like, absolutely, like, when do we start? And that was, that really kind of calmed my anxiety down as far as navigating the beginning stages of this, because I had somebody that I could lean on and say, hey, listen, like, I'm thinking about doing this. What are your thoughts on that? And they're also very blunt. There's no punches pulled. So they'd either be like, Ben, you got to reel it in a little bit, you know, get a round turn on that idea. Or they'd be like, yeah, let's go for it. Let's find the money and make it work. So I really needed that. And I think Luke needed that too in the beginning stages of this, just to make sure that we could mitigate the missteps.
Awesome, awesome. So gentlemen, Luke and Brian, I want to thank you for coming on and talking with me and taking time out of your day to share your mission and, you know, how this all came together. You guys are going to be number 350 for me, and it's a really a cool milestone to hit. And I just want to thank you for your time. You know, look, ladies and gentlemen, you have a lot of choices about where to, you know, advocate for veterans and how you do it. And there's something, especially if you love motorcycles, any part of that, you know, this is a really hands-on place to see veterans rebuild themselves and their ride. So thank you for watching. Thank you for joining. Gentlemen, I'm looking forward to phase 2 and phase 3. Hope you'll come back on and tell us more about it when it comes to be.
More than welcome.
But as we say in Oscar Mike Radio, we're mission in flight. Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thanks for the opportunity.
350.
Absolutely, absolutely. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to have all the links to the Garrison Speed Shop and the Oscar Mike Radio show post. Thanks again for your time, and we are out.
Join us on National Wreaths Across America Day, December 16th, 2023. Each December on National Wreaths Across America Day, our mission to remember, honor, and teach is carried out by coordinating wreath-laying ceremonies at Arlington National Cemetery, as well as more than 3,700 additional locations in all 50 states, at sea and abroad. Join us by sponsoring a veteran's wreath at a cemetery near you, volunteering, or donating to a local sponsor group.
Thank you for listening and watching Oscar Mike Radio, where our active duty service members and veterans are in action and the mission is in flight. If you are a veteran or know a veteran who needs help, please dial 998 and press 1 for the Veterans Crisis Line.